We are live. Back again for another episode. How are you doing today, Dakota?
I'm doing good, buddy. It's good to talk to you again.
Yeah, it's been a little minute. But it's always good to hear your voice, dude. Really good. You had a good Christmas and New Year's then?
Yeah, it was really good. The whole family enjoyed it. Lots of good memories, and everybody seemed pretty happy. How about yourself?
Yeah, exact same, man. Really good to see the family. It's been a while since COVID, obviously, and we could all get together. And then for New Year's, it's the anniversary wrapped in there, so it's extra special. So really fun.
Big time.
No, I love it, and I think it's been quite a while actually, because I don't think I had
it.
Yeah, I don't think I had a chance to even let you in and let you know about my my podcaster thing with Sarah Geidlinger there. Did I get a chance to tell you a little bit about that?
Not enough. Please get into it.
Yeah, so Sarah was running a program at the Kitchener Public Library there, and it was a podcaster in residence is what they called it. They selected a few people to join them, and then Sarah would give some one-on-one training. And dude, this podcast might turn into the Sarah Geidlinger tribute hour here.
Beautiful.
Yeah, no, I learned so much from her. She showed me a lot of tips about editing, about recording, different tricks on which site she uses, that kind of stuff, and even on a bigger level, we were able to connect. I was shocked that our connection was hip hop. She yeah, so she, as soon as I mentioned that the podcast was about hip hop and interviewing different artists and kind of going through different sources of media, she immediately got super interested, and we were able to share some stories about Shad, share some stories about local hip-hop artists that she's already interviewed. So I really think, in the coming months here, we're going to do something together, put in shift work jam sessions
Yes.
with Bond Park, right?
Awesome, man. This is huge. We're getting a seat at the pro table? Oh boy.
That's right. They better bring us a big plate. We're hungry, you know what I mean?
That's right.
So no, it was really good, and I just think meeting with others with a like-minded goal like ours is only gonna expand both of us, right? So super exciting
Absolutely.
stuff. Yeah.
Big time, man. That's so exciting. Great stuff. And Sarah, if you're listening, I can't wait to work with you. This is big, man.
That's right. She said she'd be listening. This is the test to see if she actually listens to our shows. But
yeah, that's right. That's right. You're on the spot. We'll know.
No hiding for sure. No, absolutely, man. And we can get back to hip hop. The tribute hour is over for now, but I'm sure I'll bring her up in plenty of times going forward and future episodes too. So no, absolutely.
Good stuff.
So season 3, episode 2, Hip Hop Evolution, man. Do you want to start off with going through our recommended songs from last session?
Let's get into it. So what are we've got 2 from our last episode there would be Ice-T, 6 in the Morning, and Schoolie D with Parkside Killer.
That's right. Yeah. I PSK, dude, this again was probably only the second time of me listening to it in its full entirety. The last time was maybe the last time we kind of talked about this offline. But basically how he made this sound is incredible, right? He just played around, and all of a sudden you have this, this dark, like grimy. Like
Yeah,
it was really interesting for a time, and this again was a time when Ice-T said the West Coast didn't have a sound at the moment,
that's
right?
right.
So
Yeah.
it kind of created a sound for them.
Well,
Um,
and
yeah.
sorry, I just want to jump in on that point, Taylor. I think that their sound prior to this was more like electronic dance sort of stuff.
Mm,
If I remember correctly from that episode, it's like it was very much like your party music, your Miami, like um, getting on the dance floor stuff. So yeah, turning lanes and going into the the boys from the hood sound like that. Yeah, that was a huge change.
for sure. And what did you think of the Parkside Killers? Like, what did you think about the sound?
Man, the sound uncomparable. Like you didn't hear anything come out like this before this. Now I'm gonna take a bold state here and say I think that most of the stuff following this definitely use this as, if not inspiration, almost like a blueprint. Because if you actually take Schoolie D, Parkside Killer, you take Ice T, 6 in the Morning, and then take something like, uh, um, oh shoot, who do we got? Our boy Dre and Easy with even their boys in the hood, um, from NWA. All of these sounds are very similar. You can tell that Schoolie D with Parkside Killer, he really brought this gangster flow that everybody was like, yeah, that's it. And then I think, and that's my bold statement is, I think everybody got on train with that and kind of stole, or borrowed the flow and even the beat.
For sure, man. And it's amazing, like, when you go through it, how many different hands it's gone through, like the same
Yeah.
song or the same sound. Um, I find that happens for a lot of songs, hip hop related, especially before the big crackdown on shoot, what's the word? Copyright. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, it can go a lot of different ways, and it's the same song, but it sounds so very different in many different hands, right?
Oh yeah. Yeah, for sure. Everybody puts their own flavor to it, but yeah, I think you can trace back the blueprint of it back down to Schoolie D.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And speaking of blueprints, we do have that gentleman in this
Hova.
episode. Let's get at it, man. Season 3, episode 2. It gets going right at the beginning, right? With Biggie.
Yeah, Biggie, and I think the biggest starter out of it was Pac's ego. You know what I mean? Like this guy's ego was so big. You know what I mean? And I really feel like him and Biggie, their whole thing came out of this ego. You know what I mean? Like they were boys beforehand. They were chilling, and Pac felt a type of way by things that had happened to him, and kind of assumed that Big had his hand in it. Um, yeah, yeah, and that's kind of the backstory behind these two being such huge players in the game. Like without this beef, do you think that these names would be as big as they are? Like you're still talking about two incredibly talented guys, but I think that this level of you know controversy really brought their names higher and more so into your home than if they hadn't been.
Yeah, for sure, man. I think the reason they are household names, although they're extremely talented artists, is the beef, is how they died. You know, both very tragic and very unnecessary, right? And
Yeah.
it goes back to the last episode of they really were not the major players. They were kind of people in it, obviously in the beef, but they weren't the ones that started it. They weren't, you know, the big time pushers of the movement of okay, West Coast versus East Coast, but they were the two that died in it, and because of that, yeah, they are household names for the wrong reasons. You know, it's although their
Yeah.
art is fantastic, I think a lot of people think of that second.
Yeah. Now, getting into Biggie there, he had some controversy behind him that I don't think was fully, out there for everybody to know either. And one of the big things about Big that I don't think I even realized until I'd watched this maybe the second or third time around was did what do you think of Big doing his own record label? He was coming up with, Junior Mafia. He was starting his own record label with Lance Riviera. I think they called it Undeas Records. And, like even Diddy had said, this is not good for my business, but that's my boy, so how could I be upset with that, But it's just one more layer into like the kind of conspiracies and controversy circled around this era with these guys.
Yeah, man, I think it's amazing. I feel like every video that comes out about the situation unearths more information behind it. But you're right. There are layers upon layers of things going on that just make it more of a mystery, does it not? Like,
Yeah.
um, but yeah, the fact that he was going to make his own record label, he kind of had his own group, um, with it, right? Lil C's was in that one.
Yeah.
Um,
Lil
Junior
Kim.
Mafia, right?
Yeah, Junior Mafia. 9 guys. Now who else during this time period was coming out with 9 guys on the stage and making a big name for themselves? Like out of the same area, same time period, we
Yeah.
got the Wu, right?
Yeah.
Wu Tang
Yeah,
forever.
that's right. The Wu Tang Clan versus Junior Mafia for sure. And I wonder why Biggie did that. I think the main reason is a lot of those kids, it seemed like, were kids from the way around the block. And he
Yeah.
wanted to get them off the streets, and they showed a little bit of talent. And, I think there was even kind of a mention in that Biggie wrote a lot of the lines for the guys too, right?
Yeah, even telling them like, okay, now I want you to do this with this first, like chop it up like this, make it sound like this. Yeah, yeah, he was definitely a talented dude, and clearly was all about taking care of the team. And again, like, I'm a huge fan of Wu Tang, but there's similarities in that, and this is just a whole nother layer of Big that we didn't know, and I wonder how far that would have gone had he had more years to give us in entertainment, because these big super groups like this, they can be a make or break thing for the individual, for the solo artist, right? So
Yeah.
like the Wu-Tang, they did huge things. The majority of them had great record deals after this. I wonder what would happen like if Little C's or like some of the other crew out of Junior Mafia that we aren't so familiar with. I wonder if they would have been bigger names, or if it would have just kind of been riding on Big's coattails.
Yeah. And I guess the other question with that too is, what do you think their goal was? Was it just to make a little bit of money so these guys don't have to go back to the streets again, or was it to go global, right? I think that's another question, and if he was around longer, that we could have figured out. But it just seemed like it was a group put together. had a few hits, and then obviously uh, Biggie passed, right? And I think there's another member in there we get to later in the show, Lil Kim.
Yeah, she was kind of the diamond in the rough, right?
That's right. And she was another person who was round the way who Biggie was taking care of. And even I forget which magazine it was, but called her the female Biggie.
Yeah, yeah. Just vulgar, but like good looking. Like I think they made a reference to her as like a deadly fembot was what one of the speakers on that show was saying. Yeah, she was a big fan of Buckshot, and I think when she first came out, she was doing more of the, well, not when she first came out, but when she was getting into the game. I think the people in the industry that were trying to bring her up kind of had this idea that she was going to be this cute little thing, and say just the chorus, or you know what I mean, like just throw them in for the hook, just to bring more fellas in. But then you hear her start spitting, and she goes off like Buckshot, and she's just hitting you with these vulgar lines, and like her the way she presents herself on stage and everything. She was the first of I would say she was the first woman to break out in that type of way, and now looking at it, geez, like I think there was a few ladies these days that were making notes about how her career went.
Yeah, man, absolutely. Whether it's Cardi B, Nicki Minaj, whatever, a lot of people have took that blueprint, if you will,
Yeah.
and kind of made it their own. Megan Thee Stallion, another one who, it's kind of almost like a shock and awe approach, where you have
Yeah.
a cute little girl, and she's not what don't read a book by its cover, right? So she even talked about Lil Kim, rather. She even talked about you know Biggie and Puff's face when you know she rapped, and they're just like, oh, that's raw. That's you got more. You know what I mean? So yeah, it was definitely something at the time which would have been just out of this world. But yeah, now it's kind of a way to get noticed, isn't it?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, she carved that lane, and yeah, now people are using that.
Yeah. And dude, just seeing the scenes, going back to Biggie, just seeing the scenes of the funeral procession and how many
Yeah.
people were, weeping in the streets and crying, and I think that again brings another layer of Biggie, where how much did he help the people in his neighborhood, right? Like
Right.
it sounded like he gave a lot back, right? Like a lot back, and people were, really appreciative, maybe getting themselves out of bad situations, and being able to live in a reasonable standard way of living, all thanks to this man here. And he's taken away far too soon.
Yeah. Yeah. That funeral was like, that was something out of a movie, man. Like
Yeah.
I wouldn't have expected to see. I understand he was a big voice in hip hop at the time, but I didn't expect to see the whole hip hop community coming together the way that they did for that funeral. You know what I mean? Like you got all of these people, like all these big names, just out in the streets there, just crying, and yeah, it's incredible the impact that somebody can have over such a short period of time.
Yeah, man. Yeah, because he was only 24, right?
24 when he got gunned down. Yeah.
That's unbelievable. That's just wow. Um, yeah, and the famous line there is victim of circumstances that he had nothing to do with. But yeah, it's wild. And then it then follows Puff,
Yeah.
and kind of his struggles, and
Mm-hmm.
listening to the music and like just the radio, and Missing You comes on by John Waite, and he said it spoke to him. It
That's right.
spoke to him to a point of he knew that he had to make a song and hit the recording studio and uh, created rap's first song on the number one spot on the charts.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, you wouldn't expect a hip hop song to go to that emotion, right?
yeah,
You got him walking up the grassy hill with all the kids running up beside in the video, like you got him out there dancing in the rain, like, you know, and the whole thing, like that whole video really is very visionary, you know what I mean? Like it's got a lot of visual in it, representation of emotion and stuff like that. And I think that all comes from like Puff was ready to give it up, right? Like he didn't see how he could keep going, and at that point, like he's just a producer, right? He's not the voice himself. He's not the star yet, but I know that Big was really pushing him to get on the tracks, to get out there and get his own um, hip hop career off the ground. And man, like when he came out with that "Missing You," that was one of the biggest hits, and it just cemented his place in hip hop.
yeah,
He's not just a producer. He's not just you know talking all over the tracks and dancing in the background. He's actually got a voice too, and is here to stay.
yeah. And it's amazing that you can take such a horrible, horrible situation and make it a positive one, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think even on that track, it was Biggie's wife singing on that, if I'm correct, right?
Yeah, Faith Evans. Yeah, yeah,
That's right. So yeah, so it's whew, yeah, that was a real emotional video and real tough time. I'm sure making that too, but
for
sometimes those
sure.
sparks of inspiration just put you on another level, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
And
Yeah,
then
it's not something you wish on people, but man, out of that situation, look at what we got. Wow.
yeah, yeah, that's absolutely it, man. And again, when you say it puts Puff on, the map for hip hop for sure, it then gave him the confidence to then make his own group, right? The Hitmen.
The Hitmen producing crew.
Yeah,
And that's an interesting group of people too, right? Because they weren't all vets. And, Puffy himself was not an instrument guy. You know what I mean? Like he wasn't, you know, playing the piano or the guitar or anything like that. He really found his voice through orchestrating, like the Quincy Jones style of orchestrating, taking talented people all in one spot and giving them the equipment that they needed, and just watching what came out of it. He was a true visionary, man. This trip that they took, what was the famous Trinidad trip? Is that it?
was that it? Yeah,
You got some major records out of this, some huge hits, right?
yeah,
Like, yeah, you got Mace, you got Puff's album out of this. The legacy of Biggie, the the Jiggy era really
yeah,
came out of. Well, they were already in the Jiggy era. Sorry, but this blew it up, right?
yeah, for sure, man. It became that cookout music. You know what I mean? That staple. We're gonna have a cookout. Okay, put on some Puff, right? Like
Yeah.
it's absolutely, dude. And what I love about that, that famous trip is, and all the people involved, is like you said, they're all in different lanes. They're all coming up. It's not like they were world famous people, all coming up. And I just love Puff's idea of saying, I'm really good at giving direction. I'm really good at providing, but I know what lane I'm in. And the fact that he was able to do what he's good at, take steps back and just, let everything work its way out. That seems so simple, but so genius, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because I think most people in that situation are kind of like the, oh, pardon me, the take charge and no, my way, my way, my way. Like there's no room for your way. Where Puff was the total opposite. Like, here's the equipment. Like, go and play and come back to me with something good. Like, he just got out of the way. Mm-hmm. And man, some of the hits, they were just wild, man.
Yeah. Yeah, and it goes back to like everyday life where, if you have a boss in this sense, sometimes just get out of the room, just get out of your own way, right? Let people use their creativity and be able to lean on each other. And okay, this guy has a lot of Latin flavor, and I'm more of a kind of technical sound guy. Let's put us together, and all of a sudden, woo, you got some music coming out, right? So yeah, for sure, dude. No, awesome. The Jiggy era.
The Jiggy era. Ghetto fabulous, man. Puff Daddy made being rich, like that much cooler. Like, he was not embarrassed to flaunt every little bit that he had. Big money, big show.
Yeah. And it's funny, I think he's still the same way. I don't think he's changed one bit. He's still bigger than life, if you will,
Yeah.
Yeah. And speaking of bigger than life, man, we get to our next artist, and it doesn't even start with him. It starts with Jaz O.
Jaz O, yeah. Which, I gotta say, buddy, like, this took me to school. I'd never heard of Jaz O, but I mean, you go back and you listen to that song with him and Jay Z. I believe it was the Originators.
Yeah.
And man, that's a good song. Actually, full honesty, that has been on my playlist since I watched this show a couple weeks ago.
Shoot, full honesty, that was gonna be my selection for for today. So
yeah, we can roll with it.
Respect, man. Like, that's again talent attracting talent, and Jaz O and Jay Z, and was it Jaz O who went to, was it Kumo D?
Yeah, right, and Big Daddy Kane.
And Big Daddy Kane, and sat down and said, "Oh, here's my man Jay Z. Can we do something with you?" And they did. And Kane at the end is like, "Actually, I like your little homie Jay Z better. Let me," and takes him on tour with him, right? Like, wild.
Yeah, and the interesting thing about this is, at the beginning of this career that Jay Z had, like, he had that hit with Jaz O. He went on tour with Big Daddy Kane, but the record labels just were not feeling him yet, and he went back to the streets. He was off of the scene for a while, so it was kind of like the first introduction to Jay Z, and then he leaves the scene for a little while. He does what he has to do. He's hitting the streets. He's making that money. Eventually, he realized, you know what? I'm not going to wait for anybody to find my sound. I'm just going to bring it to the people. So then he goes out there in a big way, right?
Yeah, absolutely, man. And because he had the money from the streets, he was able to do that, right? Like, and big. Like, it's funny, after things got on the right side and people started noticing him and seeing, okay, this guy's talented. they're offering like offers and stuff, and he's like, no, I make more than that, daily. Why would I, So it was such a different way to come into the game where you're not like beholden to a record label company and begging for a signature. It's like, pay me what I'm worth because I know I can make more doing what I'm doing right now.
Yeah. And there's something huge to be said about that, man, because clearly his talent level was worth it. Okay, we're not talking about somebody who came in and had a bunch of flop records. Like even that original song with Jaz O, the Originators, that was a killer track, and Jay Z went all in on it. You know what I mean? We're talking about a really talented dude, and for whatever reason, those record labels couldn't get on with his sound, and he's like, yeah, whatever. So he's going out there doing his shows, throwing $1,000 of ones out into the crowd at the end of the show, getting his name out there, doing it big. He didn't need anything from anyone. He was out there making his own lane. That's, again, like we've got these people in this industry, especially like these shining examples of like of things that people will never be able to do again. You know what I mean? I always bring up the Wu-Tang. We all know that no 9 people are going to go in on one record deal and then get 9 individual solo deals ever again. That'll never happen. Somebody like Jay-Z coming in and basically shutting down the record labels, all their static, and just rising above it in his own lane, throwing money into the crowd, making his own record label and doing it all independently. You'll never see that again. You know what I mean? Like it's people like this that really change the game for sure.
And what I love about it too, dude, is not only have they done it, but the fact that because we are doing our homework, we've learned about this.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? And I'm hoping a lot of people listening to this are learning about it too, because maybe there's a way you can be a trendsetter in your own career, in your own life, where, don't be afraid of what might happen. Jay-Z definitely wasn't, right? He said, okay, it's not working for me. I'm going to go make my own opportunity, so I don't think it will ever happen again. I think record labels learn from that, sadly, and you have extremely talented people like, Taylor Swift and many other names who should be getting paid full value and what they're worth and aren't, right? So, it sucks, dude.
Yeah, and I think that's so evident even as soon as like Def Jam signed Rockefeller, and you got Jay-Z's Sunshine, which was just like Puffy's, shiny suits, like the big balloon shiny suits, and the fish-eyed lens on the video, so everything's all distorted on the outside edges. Yeah. And it's so evident like how much control the label has over what they want to put out. And when we're talking about stuff like that, when we're talking about these artists, like it's a shame to see somebody get changed by that. You know what I mean? And here we have an example of Jay-Z, doing that Sunshine video, and he's like, nope, squash that. We're never doing this again. It may have been a hit. It may have been good lyrics on the song, but I'm never doing that again. It just didn't feel right. That wasn't me. No. And shut that record label down. But we've got other incredibly talented people in the industry that unfortunately, you get that one or two, usually just one good record from them from when they were independent to when they first got signed, and then everything after that is just your standard cookie cutter garbage that, they change your look, change your name, change your sound, and now you're just like everybody else. Well, why the hell are you in the industry?
Yeah.
And, you know, you come in as an outlier, and then you just jump right into the cookie sheet and be just like everybody else. Like, come on.
Yeah, it's so sad to hear things like that happen and still happen to this day where you're just kind of sucked out of your creativity, right? You're forced to do something that necessarily you don't want to do, but you're being told to do, and you're signed with us, and if you want to get paid, do what we say, right? So it sucks, dude. And the more we learn about it, the more aware we can be, and the more educated we can be on things like this. But Jay Z definitely changed the game in his time period, and yeah, it's so cool to look back and say that you actually told your record label, no, no, that's not happening. This isn't who I am. I did it once, felt awful, never again. And you see after he got out of, the the fisheye lenses and the baggy, shiny stuff, how much more successful he became, right?
Yeah, big time. Yeah. Yeah, and continues to be like we're talking about a mogul here. Like
Yeah.
this is no regular artist. This is Jay Z. Like, yeah,
The
man.
blueprint, baby. And
That's right.
would you attest a lot of his, let's call it street game, and how he handled money and made money? Do you think that's kind of how he got from, really talented artist, but we know a lot of really talented artists, to what he is now?
100% Taylor. And I'm gonna take exactly what you said and just go a step further into it. It's when you are free to make your own decisions, and we know that like you cannot be free if you are being told where to be, what to dress like, and how to speak. You know what I mean? So he was free in the sense that he didn't need the money from the record labels. He already had that. He was able to make his own decisions, and you know, and didn't allow his decision making to be clouded by the money being waved in front of his face. 100%, I would say that it was the fact that he had obtained his own level of success before he got into it. He was already, you know, wealthy. He already had money rolling, you know, and clearly had an idea of how the game works. So, yeah, no, I think that totally is why he was as big as he was. You know, 100%.
Yeah, man. And the reason I just brought that up was, I don't know if anyone else can have that freedom again, right? Like, I don't know if anyone else can gain their freedom again to be able to do that, because basically what he just did was he outpaced, because he knew how to do it, and because he was free, he could outpace the regular earnings and just made more, right? Like, it's just simple economics. But no, he is a mogul. He is a talented artist, and yeah, he came kind of at a time when New York needed a new kind of focal point, right? A new big time artist, and yeah, he definitely filled those shoes.
Yeah, and it's interesting too because at that time when New York was looking for that new sound, they were looking for that new person to step up. You actually had so many incredibly talented artists stepping up at that time, like Jay Z and Nas were like against each other at the beginning, right? Like total rivals in the hip hop game, and again you got just all this talent, man. So for him to be the outlier, for him to be the one that's still, on the top of his game today, that just speaks volumes to the vision that he had, and was able to keep through that career.
Yeah, man. Yeah, some legends in this episode right here. So I'm glad we
Big
could
time.
I'm glad we could go through it and chat about it. A lot of fun, dude. Did you want to hit the people up with the song recommendations?
Let's do it. So I think we already heard one of yours, right?
Yeah.
What do you got for me, Taylor?
So I had the Originators, Jaz O Jay Z,
Yep.
and the other one I was thinking about was Get Money by Junior Mafia.
Okay.
And the reason I picked that one is I don't know much about the Junior Mafia. I really don't. I did not even know they existed until we watched, Hip Hop Evolution. But
Yeah.
when I was hearing Lil C's talk there during the episode, I didn't know who that was. Like maybe he was bigger back in the day, but like I did not know who this dude was. And of course I've heard of Lil Kim, but I didn't realize kind of her start was in this. So I'd love to hear uh, probably their most popular song. So that's why I
Yeah.
recommended that one.
Right on.
How about
Okay.
yourself?
Okay. So out of that lane, I chose "Come On" by Biggie.
Okay.
Yeah, the millionaire, the mansion, the yacht, the 2 weed spots, the 2 hot clocks. That's how we got the weed spot. You know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So that would be my recommendation from that lane, and then I had to throw one in from my boy Jay Z. This is one of my personal favorites. Is "Feelin' It" by Jay Z. That's one of his older ones. Just a classic, timeless hit. I like it.
Is it bad I don't know that one? I realized,
It's
dude.
not bad, buddy. No, it's. Let me tell you, like this. This isn't one of the like major radio play songs, so it's okay that you don't know it.
I realized as I was watching this episode, I don't think I know Jay-Z as well as a lot of other people do. Like I know he's a
Okay.
phenom and I know he's a star, but for whatever reason, Jay-Z has not been on my playlist ever. So
Okay.
so if it wasn't on the radio, which a lot of his songs are because he's awesome, but as an artist he's awesome. If it wasn't there, then I won't know it. So this is gonna be a deep dive for me, which is always fun.
Yeah, man. This is pre Hard Knock Life, and I think at that point, he was still really being held down by the record labels. So I think that's why this really didn't gain any radio play or anything like that. But I tell you, you start typing this stuff in to your search bar on Spotify, and I mean, just go on a deep dive. Like there is such good golden music available to us today. It's stuff that we wouldn't have heard of back then. In '93 or '96 or any of these time eras, and you don't have to go searching through your older brother's, cassette tapes or CD collection to find this stuff now. It's available right to you. So you do a little deep dive on there, man, and you'll find some gold, buddy.
No, that's a great tip, dude. And we are in the information age, right? So there really is no excuse not to know the outcomes and the big songs. So thank you for recommending this, and I'm going to have to go on a deep dive here, and I'm super excited to do so.
Right on. I love it.
Awesome, dude. Another fun one, and can't wait for the next one. Season 3, episode 3 is the next one, and should be a lot of fun.
Yeah, looking forward to it.
Awesome, dude. All right, we'll have to catch up again, and thank you for everyone for listening, and we'll see you next time.
All right, signing off.